All right, welcome to the first episode of the Sport and Society Squad pod, aka the SAS. I'm Chelsea, I'm one of your co-hosts, and today I'm joined with my friends and fellow co-hosts, Arissan and Waheeda. And we're going to be talking about all things sport and society related. How we doing, gal pals?
Man, I'm excited to see this finally come to fruition after speaking on it for so long. And I love that I think for our first episode, we want to talk about why we're here. Really, our mission at the Sport and Society Squad is to blend pop culture and sports from a fresh female perspective. We like to say we're for the girls, by the girls, and really helping remove the barriers, talking about sports, and making it easier for women to engage. Isn't that right, Waheeda?
That's right. Thank you, Arissan. Building on what you said, here at the SAS, we again are focused on building a community that replaces the dad, Chad, and Brad narrative to help redefine what it means to be a fan. We hope that by making sports more accessible and less intimidating and more inclusive for women, that we empower a new generation of fans to help foster a vibrant and supportive community.
I love that. And, we're already doing it today on the pod, our own little society squad, whatever you want to call it, the Sasquatch, if you will. Anyways, I think, before we kind of jump into our playbook and talk about all of the fun things we have planned, it might help our first time listeners or any listeners really to know, who we are and what we'll be bringing as your podcast hosts. So I'm happy to start. I am Chelsea, one of your podcast hosts, and I kind of pride myself in really being our society culture queen or lead, if you will. A good way to explain it, or a visual for those of you who may need it, like this, is I got like one pinky toe really in the sports world. That's kind of really it for me, and the other nine toes are just in pop culture and society in general. I gotta support my divas. I gotta be out there, watching all the shows, getting all the goss. So sports is just kind of like there for me. It's in the background. I have a family they love sports. I like them. I'm just not so tuned in with them, but I'm happy to learn. I wanna join with some of the girlies and learn along the way from my friends Arissan and Waheeda. And I will say, before 2020, I was a little bit more tapped into the sports community, and I fell off. I completely fell off. And last season, when my queen, Taylor Swift, decided to just bless us with her presence at all the Chief games, I don't even know how many there were. That is what brought your girl back. I was watching the Kansas City's Chiefs as if I grew up in that community. I am back, baby. I am so back for her, and so I'm ready. I want to dive in. So I don't know, Waheeda, what are you bringing to the sass?
Well, first and foremost, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are so happy to have you here. But what am I bringing? I am bringing it. I'm bringing the sass, the spice, all of it. I'm just kidding. I would say that I'm the friend that straddles both worlds pretty equally. On one hand, I'm chronically online, which I think a few folks could relate to. I'm the one that is flooding the group chat with memes, headlines, whatever the hot gossip is, because I really just want to talk about all of that. So sorry, girlies, I'm in the inbox and flooding the chat group with all of that stuff. But also on the other hand, I'm an avid sports fan. So I love watching sports. I love learning about them. Admittedly, I'm not the most athletically inclined. You're not going to see me out on the fields because you don't want to see me out on the field.
I do.
But I am really a loyal fan. I'm one of the loyalists of fans. Excuse me. But I love the Sacramento Kings. Shout out to the Beam Team girlies and the Seattle Mariners. Go M's. So I really do know what it feels like to be a fan that has been on the roller coaster of fandom with your team through the highest of highs. And with those two teams specifically, the lowest of lows. So I've been there, I've been through it, and I'm going to go through it with everyone here too. So that's where I'm coming from. What about you, Arisan?
I am your sports on sports on sports. I love sports, girly. And when it comes to pop culture, really know very little. And I rely on Chelsea and Waheeda to keep me up to date. So I'm the person coming in here needing the clarification on the pop culture side of things, but grew up playing sports, did taekwondo, basketball, I coached sports, coached both those sports. Sports was always on the TV, come from a big sports family from the Pacific Northwest. So whatever local team, it did not matter what sport was playing, it was on the TV. So I'm coming from that angle. And also, I know what it's like to be the only woman on the court, or only woman in the room that's like watching sports and knows about sports. And I want to help bring more women in. We don't want to compete. We want community. And we wanted to normalize that women know sports. We know how to talk about sports. We enjoy sports. We know how to play sports. And we can engage in sports in any which way we want to. So I'm excited to be here with you all. As Chell said at the beginning of every episode, we'll have our playbook so you know exactly what we're going to be getting into. So today's episode, we're talking NFL kickoff week, right? We're getting who's playing at the Super Bowl, performing. We'll get into fantasy football. We had our own draft this week. So really getting started on embracing the fall football season, right, Chels?
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm really happy to kick us off in this playbook today because the first topic is something that I'm finding the most relatable, which is who the heck we think is going to perform at the Super Bowl this coming season. I was kind of just like trying to scout and see, who my guess was going to be. And I don't know if you remember this from last year. It may just be like a girly pop thing that I have in my mind. But last year, I remember in September, Kim Kardashian was the one that released and shared the info that Usher was going to be the performer. When did that become a thing? Like there's now a celebrity to be the announcer. Don't really remember that, but whatever. So I remember that vividly. It seems like we're getting an announcement probably later this month. With that, I did also pull up a Fox Sports. Yeah, Fox Sports. Shocking. Maybe one of the first times I've actively searched for that type of article. But I did find a couple of people that they're betting. So I want to share really quickly for our listeners what some top contenders are, and then I want to hear theories. So according to this Fox article that I have, top contenders are Lil Wayne, Justin Bieber, again, my queen, Taylor Swift, and also we've got Miley Cyrus. So again, I've got theories. I've got a side theory that I'm happy to share with everybody here. But Waheeda, I'm interested because you've got a spicy take. Who do you think is going to perform?
Okay. Before I get into my prediction for this year, I just want to say that I got Usher correct last year. So I came back from his residency, I came back from his residency and told my friends, like, for sure, it's going to be Usher. And I had some doubters. There were some haters. But look at us now. He performed and now he's on tour. So I just want to say I have a pretty good track record with this one correct guess.
One for one.
I'm 1 for 1.
That's 100%.
Exactly. I'm batting 100 right now. But I'm really excited for his tour. Would love to hear about any other listeners that might be going to his concert as well, because we know he can put on a good show. I just want to start with that, batting 1,000. But for this year, I have 2 thoughts, and neither of which are on the list because, well, I like to think outside of the box. But my first prediction / hope I'm manifesting right now is Mr. Auto-Tune himself, T-Pain.
That's insane.
T-Pain is insane. It's going to be insanely fun if T-Pain is on the show. I really want to see him on that stage because of a few reasons. First, he has a really, really deep catalog that, let's be honest, raised a lot of us. We grew up on his music, 1. 2, he's an awesome performer. If you haven't already seen his NPR Tiny Desk concert, you need to tune in.
True.
What are you doing with your life?
Amazing.
Phenomenal. And then also, lastly, unbeknownst to a lot of folks, he is actually a really great vocalist. That man can sing his little tail off. I'm just going to say, if not this year, I'm campaigning for next year, 2025, 2026. If T-Pain's not on that stage, he needs to be on it next year.
Let's get it out to the listeners.
Let's get it out there. I need it to happen. But that's my first selection. I have another sleeper take that if Lil Wayne is on the show. I really hope that they bring out Juvenile and the Cash
Ooh,
Money crew. Take hot take.
Oh, would that
wow.
mean Nicki? Would that mean Nicki Minaj too? Cash Money,
Cash
right?
Money Millionaires.
Or Young Money.
I'm
Never
thinking
mind.
about Young
Wrong.
Money. Different
Got my
crew.
money
Wow.
wrong.
But the reason why is because Lil Wayne, Juvenile from New Orleans, so let's represent. That's where the Super Bowl is being hosted this year.
Oh.
And also big one here. It's the 25th anniversary of Back That Ass Up. So we know that song gets everyone hyped. And I feel like that's going to be a really good one. They're on tour for
Damn
that
it.
too.
You've got
Wow.
good reasons.
That's
You've got fuck.
sold.
So,
W-
Waheeda.
That's, T-Pain, I did not know that he had the vocals until that NPR Tiny Desk concert. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's doing things to my body right now. Like his voice is amazing. I mean, because we only
Okay.
grew up on
We were
autotune.
only served autotune from this man. How would people know? How would people know?
I think what it was, he was probably aware of the fact that we would not be ready to appreciate his voice back then. Now he can venture off into that area and give us the vocality that we were not ready for.
Ooh, I love that
Is
word.
that a word?
I don't
Did I
know.
make
It's
that
here.
up?
I
It's
think
here.
I think it needs to be now, if it's not
She's
already.
giving vocality.
But those are my 2 cents, my 2 predictions for the show. Hoping that will be the case, and we'll see, I guess. But Arison, what do you think?
You know, remember what we said at the top of the episode? I am just so not with it. I have no idea and no predictions. I saw someone on our Instagram said Dua Lipa. I would love Lil Wayne to perform. I feel like lately Super Bowls have to have like one headliner, but then there's like three other headliners coming out, and
Yeah.
I love that.
Sure.
I can't honestly. I would love J. Cole to perform, but I don't
Oh,
think he would. Um,
One of
that's
my
just like a
absolute faves.
that was just like a personal, like, love to see him do a halftime show.
and is it because of the music or the way he looks?
The
So,
music.
Okay, both.
for
Okay.
me,
I
You
mean,
both.
have to
I
ask.
I mean,
To
I guess for
ask.
that, but it's because he's like one of my favorite artists.
I'm on the
I
Okay,
same
think that would be
page.
fair.
good.
I love him.
Yeah. Or
Fair.
also, this has nothing to do with anything. I don't have facts. I have only personal preference. Like, what if Nelly and Ashanti perform? Because they just got back together. They just had a baby. Like,
Might be
They
too
just
soon,
had a
maybe.
baby.
but wouldn't that be
Are
crazy?
they perform? They're bringing the baby out. That's the guest star. The baby
Bring
is
the
I don't
baby.
know. This is
getting
what
on
I'm
that
saying. I
stage.
No.
literally have no idea. I am the worst person. If one of my predictions is right, then I'm gonna be like, no, you can't ever trust anything coming out of my mouth. So I'm more curious what Chelsea has to think, because like this is not for me. I don't know.
Okay. I'm living for your wildest dreams, like literally for you. But for me, I'm gonna take us somewhere that's just, I'm not trying to make it all about myself, but a little bit it is for my prediction here because there's a vibe that I'm going into this 2024-2025 season. I don't even, that's the right season, right? Like, I just want to be honest.
You're
Okay.
right. That's the year
So
we're in.
I have a vibe, and you're gonna see a through line through this episode, and just wait for it. It'll come full circle. But I just have to say, I'm a Sagittarius. That is my astrological sun sign. And so I'm always rooting for my fellow Sag pals out there who are doing it big and doing it best. And so, you know, I had a gut feeling. My friend David and I were really kind of just talking about who was performing last year and who we wanted to see. And I mean, I'm not trying to claim this, like I said it last year, but we
Waheeda
did
did.
say, well, don't even get me
Waheeda
started.
did, and Waheeda got it right.
Okay, so my friend David and I, when we were talking, we were really feeling like Miley Cyrus. She would just kill it. And I have to say, she's a Sagittarius. And so, although I would love if Taylor Swift ended the Eras tour at the Super Bowl, like how epic, and she's also a Sagittarius, I'm gonna say Miley. I want to see that girl come out on a wrecking ball, just break some stuff down, bring out Dolly Parton. Dare we ask to get Beyonce because they had that song earlier this year? Wishful thinking, but I'm going all in on my Sagittarius queen, Miley Cyrus.
She
That's my
Okay.
take.
she's on a redemption tour is the wrong word completely, but I would say a few years ago Miley would have been a risky pick,
Yeah.
and she is really just coming in strong. She's on her own, gone through the breakup, glow up, and I'm living for it. She just got her Disney inducted in the Disney
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. Like
True.
she would be fun, but I feel like what if T-Pain also came out with my like that would be like I feel like there has to be those different elements. Like
Hannah
Dolly,
Montana T-Pain.
Look,
Can you
Hannah.
imagine?
So we do Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus, T-Pain vocally, and then T-Pain auto-tune. We're
you
getting
really want to
4
see
performers.
T-Pain vocally. I
And
think for
that's
the
our
Super
hot
Bowl,
take from the
yeah.
sass. It's T-Pain and Miley Cyrus. Watch out.
Watch out.
Let us know who you think is going to be performing at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, listeners, drop a comment, YouTube, IG, TikTok. Let us know. We're curious.
We're very
And I
curious.
personally think I'm going to win, but whatever.
I think I put a pretty good one out there, but since we are talking about the Super Bowl and we've discussed, who's going to perform, because really that's a lot of the reason why we're tuning in. There is also this other thing that happens at the Super Bowl. They play this game called football, and I feel like we should also talk about that. I'm curious to see, since we're now talking about football, what the sports experts are saying about who will be taking home the Lombardi Trophy this year. According to a CBS Sports article we found, again, we're doing our research as best as we could. It looks like the top contenders are the Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers, who we saw at last year's Super Bowl, both of those teams, and the Baltimore Ravens are the top 3. Arissan, I gotta ask, who do you think is gonna win the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, for me, what's tough is there's a lot of hopes of who. Like, I don't want to see the Chiefs win another Super Bowl. I'm bored. I'm not a
That's
Chiefs
a
fan.
hot take.
That is a hot
It's
take.
3, like, no, thank you. You know who I would like even less to win the Super Bowl is the 49ers. See, as a Seahawks fan, you just can't, like last year was rooting for Kansas City, mostly Taylor Swift, because I just, no part of me could root for the 49ers in the Super Bowl. So with that being said,
Fair.
would like to think I am so loyal that I was just going to say ride or die Seahawks. But, I don't think the Seahawks are going to win the Super Bowl. And because
not with that attitude.
Yeah, literally.
Okay.
From their community.
Believe in your team.
Okay, ladies who are both Seahawks fans, are they either of your predictions? Because I don't think so.
They're
so
not.
don't come at me. Yeah, okay,
Let's
that's what I
blame
thought.
mine later, okay?
But it's not my take.
That's not your take. So with that, because who I actually think is probably going to win the Super Bowl aren't teams that I actually want to say are going to win the Super Bowl, I am going to go out of left field or right field, whatever the baseball reference is, for the underdog of underdogs, because I think this would be absolutely wild if this happened.
Bring it.
If the Browns won a Super Bowl.
Have they ever made it to a Super Bowl? Like,
I'm laughing. I can't even say that with a straight face, but that's my hot take. That's my prediction.
That's
I have
a
no
piping
idea.
hot take.
Not a Browns fan, but I am an underdog fan.
I freaking just have to say, you are calling the Chiefs boring if they do a three-peat. That's never happened in NFL history per the murmurs I've heard on the TV. That's boring, but you want the Browns to win?
That's why it's my hot take, man.
It's not giving logic, but whatever.
I
logical.
I support you.
You have a tender heart for the underdog, so I'm all about that take, and I really appreciate it. So, I'm not fighting you about it. It's going to probably set the world on fire if it does happen.
Yeah, I agree. Apparently, I want to set the world on fire.
This girl is a
Okay, Chelsea, what about you? Tell me what your hot take
Okay.
is.
Yeah, for real. And so this is just to kind of backpedal a little bit there. I'm so glad you asked because mine's not based in anything sports science related. I've got two teams that are tied for first in my mind. The first, and join me on a journey here, is the
Strap
Cincinnati
in.
Bengals. Yeah, strap it. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm pretty sure that's the city and the team. And the reason, because that was a little bit of research for me last night. The reason is because Joe Burrow, if you don't know now, you do know, his birthday is December 10th. What does that make him? A freaking Sagittarius. And my birthday twin. I mean, hello, I'm not going to say the year. I'm going to start a rumor that we were twins separated at birth, but that's for a different time. That's a different pod, different time. So that being said, because I'm rooting for my Sag friends, I'm going Cincinnati Bengals tied with the Dallas Cowboys. And I almost said the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders because that is the reason in which I am choosing them. I watched that Netflix special about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. It's everything. And personally, those girls work so hard to get on that team. I want to see them dance as far as they can. And I want to see sweet baby Angel Reese dancing at the Super Bowl. I think it would just be everything. So I don't care if these takes are wrong. That is what I'm doing. It's where I'm going.
Dallas Cowboys is a wild prediction, but I also saw something on Instagram that had the top 6 picks, and they had Dallas Cowboys
As
in
one of
there
them.
as one of them. And it was so funny in the comments. They're like, what is Cowboy? Like, it just feels wild,
Yeah.
but you never know.
I think, and I'm going to be really honest with you, I don't know how I know this, if it's right. If it's wrong, then it makes sense for why I think this, but I think maybe they made the playoffs last year. Could be so wrong. Well, we could fact check and follow up maybe. I don't know.
We gotta fact check that one.
Okay.
We gotta
Now
check.
that I've got it out of my system, Waheeda, I don't know. Who do you think's gonna win the Super Bowl?
My pick. Okay, let's see. So again, this may be controversial because it's an NFC team that isn't my hometown team. But my selection, much like Chelsea, is rooted in nothing other than the fact that I want to see this player go as far as possible and on my screen for as much of the season as possible. And that is Jalen Hurts and the Philly Eagles. So that's
Just
my
Jalen Hurts.
prediction. Just Jalen Hurts. Like the rest of the team, cool. The other guy is
He will win
cool,
it
but
by
like
himself.
just him. But you know, he's leading the team, so we'll put him up at the front.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Sure.
It's rooted in nothing other than that fact. But also, they ranked 5th in that article, so it's not completely out of reach. And I guess it's something that could really go either way, but we'll have to wait and see.
I like that prediction for you.
I do
And
too.
out of probably all the predictions, that's the most one I'm supportive of.
Wow.
Like,
Okay.
it makes
Whatever.
I mean, you picked it for the quarterback, but it also makes sense as the team, you know. So I would also like to see I could get behind the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Well, on top of that, I feel like they're going to come back a little hungry, right? Because the last time they were there was what, 2 years ago? They lost. And
Yeah.
it's still pretty present. And they'll,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And well, I was gonna say in Chelsea, you still get your Taylor Swift connection because Jason Kelsey just retired from the
Mhm.
Eagles. He's now commentate. Like, he's still involved in that. Like, there's still the T Swift angle there.
I could be supportive.
And isn't T Swift from Pennsylvania, if I remember
You're right.
correctly?
She has
Yes.
that lyric with my Eagles t-shirt on. You're so fucking right.
Thank you.
Side
you.
note, before we transition, I was actually at her Philly Eras Tour show.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
giving that they're gonna win the Super Bowl. All these connections.
All of these
All the
connections
connections
just
to us
mean
means that
Yeah.
these
That
are
they
two are
will
going to
win.
win this Super Bowl. Okay. I think before we go too far down the rabbit hole, let's transition and talk about fantasy football, because I know for a lot of folks, and mostly men, because I think it's like 80% men, fantasy football becomes their identity for the next 6 months and football season. And there's a lot of videos on like TikTok and Instagram about husbands giving in their notice because they're going to be in fantasy and football. I have personally played fantasy football a few years, but this year was both Chelsea and Waheeda's first time. So for the SAS podcast, we decided to do our own fantasy draft. As a little background for those that don't know fantasy, but just hear it, like I feel like a lot of women hear the word fantasy football and they just like tune out. The gist of it, again, fantasy, is in the name because it is not real. I think that's important to remind a lot of people.
100%.
But
It's
what
not?
you do, yeah, I mean, fighting
What?
words. I know, fighting words. Is you have a league. So it's like 8, 10, 12 people, however many you want. And within the league is you all draft players. So you have a whole roster that you're trying to fill with positions. So who is going to be like on the field, like quarterback, tight end, wide receivers, running backs, defense. Some people have defensive players. You can change how your league is set up, and then you have bench players. And each week you face off against someone else in your league, and whoever wins is based on how well your players played in real life football. And then that's how it's
So
determined. So
it's kind of real.
it's
It's
kind of
based
real.
in reality. Who made it?
It's based in reality in the sense that it's based on like real people playing, but how leagues are set up, what people have to do for winning or losing, it's a game. It's a game about a game. Okay, so that's just like a little background. But for our fantasy football draft, because we wanted to make it a little bit more like, hey, anyone can do that. Do this. It's actually not that hard. It doesn't take crazy strategy unless you want it to. You can do it this way. But our only rule for people drafting is you could not pick people based on skill and football acumen alone. You had to have a strategy that had nothing to do with football. So I would love to hear each of our strategies were and what that meant as far as our draft report that we got, how we feel about the draft overall. Waheeda, what was your draft strategy?
Sure. So, as a short queen, I decided to name my team the Short Kings, which was kind of hard because athletes aren't really known for being petite, especially football players. So, I really just ended up selecting players that were under 6 feet tall, not really short, I guess, and definitely not short to me. But shout out to ChatGPT for being my throughout the process. It told me like who I should select, when I should pick them. It also helped me like rework my draft strategy if anyone that I was planning on picking just got picked up before I did. So that was really cool. But one thing that did catch me off guard when we were doing all of this was I guess I wasn't fully prepared, but the snake draft process where we had to select players back to back threw me off guard. And for some reason, I ended up selecting 2 quarterbacks, which may not hurt me in the long run, but I have no idea. I have no idea if that's going to hurt me or help me. But you know what? At the end of the day, it gave me a draft grade of a C, which I'm not mad about because it's passing. It's not too bad of a showing for my ever attempt at this, but got a C. I passed, I guess, but would love to hear, Chelsea, like what happened with your.
Yeah, I mean, first off, C's do get degrees, but like we were graded for this shit. Like I thought this was supposed to be fun. So that threw me off, but I got a B for my draft, which is like kind of on par for like my whole education history. So I'm not like super upset about it. But yeah, so really to just kind of like bring in that Sag theme one more time, like not to be that girl, but my theme did come back
Question?
to the Sag. Okay.
Chelsea, are you a Sagittarius?
I sure freaking am. Okay. We're
Just
blunt.
I wanted to make
We're
sure.
adventurous. And we're optimistic. Okay. If you could tell by the recording, that is who I am. Fine. Whatever. Shade away. back to my theme, it did inform though my strategy because, as I mentioned earlier, my girl T Swift is a Sagittarius. So my team name, Ball Too Well, and I was picking guys who I thought could maybe finish a Taylor Swift lyric or would fit into the Swiftie universe. I know, like, whatever, not the most inventive or important or really kind of like related to the game. I will say I did have to get Joe on my team, Joe Burrow, again, because, that's part of my overall theme and he's sad. And I believe that he could fit into the Swiftie universe. But yeah, that's kind of like what I was going for. If I remember from the group chat, Arissan, you may or may not have got a failing grade. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Our athlete got
Uh,
a failing grade.
there was a part of me during the draft on the inside where it was going against so much instinct. And I don't regret, maybe I do regret, we'll find out my draft strategy because my draft strategy was picking players whose names I think could belong or I could find in like a fantasy schmut novel. And
yeah.
that was a little bit harder than I thought. I had to keep polling the room, so I didn't use ChatGPT. I used the room that we were in, and I got a big fat F on my draft report. And another thing, because my team name is Ready Set Smut, but the ESPN app would not let me use the word smut in the acronym. It's a banned word. So I had to say ready. I use schmuck like I'm Sean Connery, but one of the girls' names is Untarnished Virgins, and that wasn't a banned word. So I have a little bit of beef about them banning smut, but mostly, you never know what's going to happen in the football season. I might have gotten an F, but that could be actually the winning team. You never know. I feel like people say if you get an A, you actually are going to be screwed for the season, and if you get an F, you're getting the championship. But I also really appreciate, Chelsea, you didn't mention this because your husband is in about like 7 other leagues, and they're impressed with your fantasy team. And I really hope that you beat him in most of all of the leagues because I love that for you.
I love it for me, and I will say we've got it even in writing. So maybe we'll post it up on our Instagram for folks to see that my team may look better than his in a few leagues, which I will have to share with y'all too. He did end up popping me for a later one of those 7 drafts. So I'm getting live tweets from the draft. I got Joe. I got I'm like, okay, so you're copying me. So this was trade secret that I shouldn't have shared.
I feel like maybe you need to make a commission or something if he wins that.
Yes. Wow,
as the GM, as a scout for him.
I won't lie. If he does win, it does usually come back to maybe we should go to a nice dinner. So I do reap the reward. So these 7 leagues, although they may be like annoying at times, like I don't know, when we were watching Thursday Night Football and he kept going when I'm like, give me more. Whatever. Yeah, as much as I'd love to talk like all day about the shenanigans going on in my house, and honestly, Arissan, smut novels in general, I think it is time for us to kind of like wrap up for today. We've got lots to talk about on our second episode. But one thing that I think we should ask our listeners, it might be nice to hear from them, is we didn't set a punishment for who loses our league, and we don't have that yet. So if you want to drop a comment on our YouTube, our Instagram, our TikTok, please tell us what you think we should be doing for our punishment. We'd love to hear it.
And while you're there, don't forget to hit subscribe and follow the show on Spotify and Apple or wherever you listen.
Tune in next week. In the meantime, stay sharp, stay sassy, and catch you next time.